Hey YouTube, Longways Post 975. I want to talk about 5 things that absolutely terrified me as a kid. I mean, as a child, these things scared the living piss out of me. Now, we all have things, don't we, that scared us as a child. But what's interesting about these 5, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, is every one of these was aimed at children. Whether it was a children's movie, a children's show, or, you know, sort of an infomercial. In which case I guess that was sort of the intention, was to, well, I guess educate and slightly terrify. But these things really properly scared me, seriously. And even if I watch any of them now, watching them again on YouTube, I can still sort of see why they scared me as a kid. Now, I can't take credit for this video. This video is the result of a random tweet I put on Twitter sort of around Easter weekend. Yes, I'm on Twitter. Nothing profound or anything. Follow me by all means, but don't expect any sort of life-changing tweets or anything. But yeah, someone commented, a good friend of mine, Horror Mike, he's in my friend list, otherwise known as Mike Rants, he's in my channel list, put up a tweet saying, you know, hey, it's Easter Sunday, Mary Poppins is on, one of the best movies ever made. And I just tweeted back randomly, that movie scared the shit out of me as a kid. And he laughed and said, you should make a video. So it's taken till now because I wanted to find sort of, I didn't want to do a big fat list of 10, because if I did a list of 10, you know, they start getting weak and stuff that wasn't really scary or whatever. But these, I can honestly say, these are 5 things that you know, it was like a car crash. I hated them, yet I still watch them. I don't know why, but they generally terrified me as a kid. So obviously, this is no particular order, but first of all, I'm going to have to talk about Mary Poppins, because that's kind of the thing that started all of this. Mary Poppins is probably regarded as one of the best children's movies of all time. You know, it scared me. It absolutely scared me. There's one scene that properly scared me, and to this day I don't enjoy watching that scene. But I do remember as a kid when we used to watch it, and both my brothers loved it, I wasn't looking at this wonderful, sort of magical, you know, nanny. I was looking at a crazy woman who could do all kinds of magical shit. I was looking at a witch. You know, I can see why children liked it, but as a kid, I don't know, that's not the sort of shit I wanted my my babysitter to do. But the one scene in Mary Poppins that absolutely properly terrifies me is the bit when they go into the pavement, or the chalk on the pavement, and in that cartoon world. That just scared the crap out of me. I don't know, for some reason I was obsessed with being stuck in that world. I don't know, my childhood brain just went, I didn't want to go in there, you know. Imagine that change in your world. It's one thing to have a nanny who can do magic, but to be in like a cartoon world? What if you couldn't get out? I was terrified you couldn't get out, and the fact that they only seemed to get out because it rained kind of strengthened this fear of me. So yeah, Mary Poppins, and in particular that scene, the cartoon scene, you know, the chalk world, utterly terrified me. Now, another Disney movie that absolutely terrified me, specifically really for one scene as well, is Dumbo. Pretty sure I'm not alone in this one. The pink elephants on parade scene, you know, the bit where Dumbo accidentally gets drunk and all the pink elephants start appearing. I just found that music was intense. It was just an absolutely nightmarish vision. It was horrible, particularly the bit with the elephants in the bed and the other elephants are marching around the confines of the screen. You know, it's just proper scary, intense, and they're just constantly coming at you. That just has a surreal, nightmare-esque quality to it, and pink elephants on parade absolutely terrifies me. Even if I hear the music nowadays, it still properly makes me regress to being a scared little child. And making a point of watching it on YouTube when I was kind of, you know, thinking about this list, yeah, I still don't like it. I still don't like it. I mean, I can't see how that made it into a kids film in the first place. I know kids were probably of sterner stuff in the 40s, but yeah, pink elephants on parade scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. Dot and the Kangaroo. Dot and the Kangaroo was a kids movie from the late 70s. It was kind of animation style, over the top of live action. It worked really well. It was based on a children's book from the late 1800s. Basically, it's Australia, and a small child called Dot goes wandering off into the outback and basically gets lost. You know, gets properly lost in the bush. Now, a kangaroo comes along. The kangaroo gives her some berries to eat, and for whatever reason, these berries allow Dot to understand all the animals of, you know, the outback. It's got some great sort of strong, you know, observations on basically how we were fucking over nature at the time, particularly considering the original material came from the late 1800s. So basically this kangaroo takes it upon herself to return Dot to her family, and it's, you know, it's the epitome of everything that's a good children's sort of story. It's got cute furry animals, birds, songs. It's very sort of cuddly, you know. It's just totally kidified, and that's what makes this one scene in it utterly terrifying, because it comes out of nowhere. Everything that precedes it is just so, you know, sort of Disney-esque movie, you know. And this one scene, and pretty much it's basically they go past this cave and there's like Aboriginal markings on the wall, and they depict something called the bunyip. The bunyip is a mythological creature from Aboriginal myth. Now, it's like a swamp dweller. It's not a very nice creature. Like, it's thousands and thousands of years old. And that's where this one scene departs from the rest of the film. And it starts with this absolutely horrible piano music. Like, as in, it's just chilling music and this visceral growl. It is just... I'm watching it back recently, or like in the last week. I still find it quite uncomfortable. I don't know why, but it's a depiction of the bunyip itself. As I said, this whole scene is kind of like a dreamlike sequence, and God is the cute animation style of before, almost like a stick man-esque, you know, cave drawing animation style comes in. The bunyip just looks like this horrible, glowing apparition, and there's nothing prior to it in this film could prepare for this massive departure. You know, and then right after this scene it goes back to being cute and cuddly again. But that one scene, and I can still remember the fear I had watching it as a kid when I watched it back recently. That one scene, the bunyip scared the living piss out of me. I still really don't like watching it now. The Charlie Says public information commercials from 1964 to 1979. I guess, as I said before, that their intention was to educate, but possibly a certain amount of fear is good to sort of keep a child on the right tracks. But basically, it's a group of very short cartoons. It's certainly not longer than a minute, animated in the kind of Pigeon Street, you know, style animation. And it's basically this boy and his cat can talk to him. Although, to be honest, when his cat talks, it just looks like he's talking in tongues. But the boy can understand him, and basically, it's just a certain set of scenarios where they're trying to warn you as children that you shouldn't do it. Like, there's a bit when he's in a park and a stranger comes up to him and he says, "Would you like to see some puppies?" And then his cat tells him that, you know, "What are you doing?" So he goes back to his mum, who says, "You are good not to go with a stranger." There's one where they're by the side of a pond, and they wander away from the dad who's fishing, and the cat jumps into the pond. And this bit, one bit I've never forgotten, where it all goes dark and dismal, and you've got the cat swaying around, and he's basically drowning. I mean, if that doesn't terrify you as a kid, I don't know what would. And basically, they even openly admit that they saved him by complete accident. And then at the end of the thing, they say you should always stay by your parent. Can't help but think, watching them now, that a lot of these situations could have been avoided if the parents just kind of kept a better eye on their children. But, you know, their heart was in the right place. And then there's the one where they find a book of matches, and again, the cat says, "Don't play with matches." But I don't know, I found them quite scary as a kid. I found them quite disturbing. First of all, I always thought it was sad that this cat constantly get put into these situations. But, yeah, I guess that was kind of what they intended, but... anyone else from my generation who remembers this, let me know if they scared you as well. But the Charlie Says public information commercials scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. And last but not least, Words of Gummitch. Now, Words of Gummitch was a children's book, or set of children's books from the 30s, about a scarecrow who could come to life. Now, it wasn't that it scared me. I want to talk about the TV show from the late 70s starring John Pertwee of Doctor Who fame. Basically, Words of Gummitch was this aware, intelligent scarecrow with a sort of sense of mischief, and he had like mice living inside him, and as a kid that just really scared me, because I thought, well, if he's alive, wouldn't that hurt? And he could change his head. He had like a set of interchangeable heads, and each one would actually, and this scared me as a kid as well, each one would, you know, grant him a completely different personality and sort of set or skill set that would go with it, and essentially he was just mischievous and went stealing. In fact, if you watch it now, all he ever seems to do is go around the village nicking stuff. But it was the act of him changing his head. He so violently went like that. And they made a real point of showing, he'd pull the head up and they'd film it from behind him. You see the head completely remove his shoulders. That terrified me as a kid. Utterly, utterly terrified me. I just thought, can change his head. It scared the piss out of me. And the bit where I always felt a little bit sorry for him was, this guy called the Crow Man created him. He gave him free will and intelligence, and basically told him to go and stand and watch a field. And obviously, because he had independent thought, he would wander off. And every time he wandered off, the Crow Man would catch him, and then basically, with these two goon scarecrows he had as well, and say, like, "Go back there and watch it, I'm going to burn you to death." And I just always thought that was a little bit scary and sad, in the sense that, what, you've created him to stand in a field forever. You've just made a slave. But yeah, it was a Gummitch scared the piss out of me. So yeah, that was 5 things in no particular order that absolutely terrified me as a kid. But were all intended for children, you know, audiences. So, what were the things that scared you as a kid? Leave a comment. I'll see you there.